And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880 and on YouTube at realestateshoworegon.com. I'm Pete Belcastro. This is Alice Lema here. We're both real estate brokers with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon. We get together with you once a week to talk about real estate in Southern Oregon, our style. And heck, even though we're coming to you Thanksgiving weekend for our show, there's the winter selling cycle is underway and all that. We got lots of information to share with you today about the market and what's going on, things that we come up with every day doing this crazy business out there, right?
Well, and it's really fun to have the stats come up because it reinforces what we were experiencing in the field anyway. And there's definitely some new market trends that are interesting and that our listening audience should give some attention to.
Yeah, maybe now, if you followed us, we have that cycle. You had that, I think you had that picture that right there of the selling cycles that we're in. We've had that summer selling cycle, you know, it goes up in the first of the year and then it goes down like this. And we're in that kind of bottom swing here in winter. But we were so right about October. You know, October sales actually went up across the country. And that was because those interest rates had dropped into some of those 3.2 ranges even. Mm-hmm. That's spurred across the country.
And we had some more listings come on the market. And when we have a more normalizing market, it's because there's more inventory. We still don't have enough, but we had the backlog of buyers meet the additional inventory, and happiness was all around because people got to move.
And because there was so much in October, what that did to November was just take the inventory levels down because so many people were buying
scooped
there
it all
in
up.
October.
Scooped it all up.
That's why it came down. So that's where the market is right now as we sit here. And, of course, we're at the end of November. So next week probably we'll have maybe have the new SOMLS stats out and see kind of exactly where that went. But it did change the market because simply there's just not enough listings. We had
shortage again.
Yeah, we had when we back. I think it was 2014 or 15 was when it finally came down. The inventory level, I should say, went up over 1,000, and it stayed at well over 1,000.
That means 1,000 properties for sale at the same time.
So if I think, at least in my calculations, looking at things, we're under 1,000.
Right.
It happened last week. It was down 13% from a year ago. So that's the issue right now is low inventory, right?
Yes, that is in my opinion. And if your house is ready for Christmas and you were thinking of selling anyway, you could try putting it on the market in the next 5 to 10 days because we could very well have you in escrow. Then you could settle back, have your holidays, and then move in January, early February.
Okay, but as we say, and you know, our market changes at a certain price level. And so if you're in the luxury market, then the supply of inventory is almost 2 years in Jackson County in that $1 million range. Okay, so
yes.
So that market is different than if you're looking in $250,000, $350,000 range. There's totally different markets.
And it depends if you're buying or selling. If you're buying and you want to take advantage of those low interest rates and buy the luxury home, it is your paradise right now, in part because a lot of those properties are still overpriced compared to what the market conditions are. Mm-hmm. If you're selling, then I still maintain that even a luxury property really ought to be in escrow in the first 30 to 60 days. If you're priced right, the condition is good, and your house is not only in good condition, but shows well and is available to show.
Well, that's not happening. I mean, it's not happening right now there.
Right, but you have to be priced to where the market conditions are. So if you're on the luxury side and you've been on the market for more than 60 to 90 days, I would say you really need to reconsider your price.
All right, come back down where most of us are, Alice.
Back down to reality down
here in that
us folks are.
Back down in reality price land around here. That's where the low inventory is at, and it's still 2 months supply, things like that, in that 250 range. There's simply not much out there.
Right.
They're going quickly, right?
And so that speaks to demand, and then those prices are starting to go up. We're starting to see some of those houses this time last year that were 200 to 230 are now 250 to 260.
Yeah, right. All right. I will just
because
tell
of
you,
demand.
Okay, and if you're buying out there, and I know there's a lot of buyers there in that price range, you have to be ready to go to be first almost.
Yes.
Because there's people they're looking, and when there is a new one come up or a price reduction or something in that price range, they're really being
they get sucked up fast.
Yeah,
and there's multiple offers. So if you're a buyer in that scenario, you got to be ready to lose. So you have to be ready to act fast and be ready to not get it.
Yeah, that's the way that is. That's the market that we're facing across Jackson County. So be aware of those things.
But yeah,
right?
but it's very specific to that little micro market thing, because we even have multiple offers in some of the commercial properties, like the commercial apartment buildings, that are higher priced, and that's sort of counter to what we're talking about in the different price points. So it's very like mini market specific.
Right. One of the things that we talk about a lot in lending is credit scores, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things when we talk with our clients is, do you know what your credit score, whatever, you talk about these things, because credit scores make a difference in terms of your loan, right?
They do.
Right?
Completely.
To show you how much they do, this is an interesting stat here, and I just want to share this with you. If you have a credit score of 800 or more,
which is really, really good.
You're there, aren't you? You're up there on that 800, aren't you?
No.
Not me, anyway.
No, I'm proud of my credit score, but it's not 800.
If you have 800 credit score or more and you want a loan, the odds of you defaulting on that loan are 1 out of 1,500. You're going to get maybe that 3.2% interest rate that kind of like we talk about. If you go down then, say your credit score is 720, which a lot of us are in that range there, the odds of defaulting are 1 out of 650.
Which is why they do a score.
It drops in half.
Yeah, they're trying to do a risk analysis
Okay.
on you.
680 is your credit score. The odds of default now drop to 1 out of 100.
Oh, that's an interesting division, isn't it?
It is. 650. And these are around VA loans, or in 620, 650. 650, the odds of defaulting are 1 out of 50. And if you're a 620 score, which is the minimum kind of thing, the odds of you defaulting of that are 1 out of 15. So you can see.
That's way higher than I would expect. Wow.
You can see why you're going to get a higher interest rate at the lower credit score than you are at the higher score.
And I think people
right?
don't
it
yeah,
sense.
Exactly. But I don't think people realize that when you have a good score, you get a better interest rate. When you see those interest rates advertised online or on the side of buildings or on your phone, it has to do with your qualifications as a buyer. Not everybody gets that rate.
So anyway, that's kind of to keep that in mind when you look at interest rates, and there's lots of ways to look at them. Chase and B of A, you can look at your credit scores right for you there without charging you, things like that. Go check them out and see what they are.
But when Guy Giles was here, our in-house lender, didn't he say that in some cases you can buy down your interest rate? Like you might qualify for a certain rate, but if you give them a little bit more money, you might be able to buy a rate
we're talking
a little bit lower. But
what you're talking about are points.
So he was just saying it was possible.
So a point is basically it's 1% of your loan. So say if you want to buy it down to a smaller, lower interest rate, you say I want to say 5. So I'll put 5% down, or another 1 or 2%. That's what you would do to get that.
And
people do that a lot.
Yeah, and it's worthwhile because it's a 30-year loan, and that's if you don't qualify for the best rate. Right out of the gate.
See how that works? I don't know, but interest rates, credit scores do matter when you're in the world of lending and buying. That's just part of the deal. I also wanted to share with you the median rents. We talked about rents. Okay, we've got a break coming up here in a minute. Average rent in Medford. What do you think it is now?
I think it's close to $1,500.
Well, you're close to that. It is $1,461.
And the national average, I think, is $14.
The national average
Southern Oregon is more expensive rent-wise than the national average.
It's the national average is $1,600.
Oh my gosh! Okay. Well, a couple weeks ago, the report was different.
So the latest report, $1,600. The average rent in the U.S.
So it's gone up.
So in Medford, $1,461. That's still pretty high. I mean, as we know,
that is high.
And the thing was, it's gone up.
Yeah, the national average has gone up a lot.
Last time Danielle Remley was here from Sterling West, rents were coming down. Remember, because the new bill had passed, things like that. It kind of leveled off. They've gone up again, so buyer beware of that in the rental market.
Well, we're losing a lot of our inventories. It's supply and demand again.
Yeah.
Our rental inventory is shrinking because there was a huge reaction from the landlord pool to just sell off their assets.
We estimated, and this took place at our John L. Scott meeting. We were talking about this. We're estimating that maybe 10%. And I don't know how we get to that number, but what if 10% of the landowners? Of the property landlords, I should say, sold. that added to the inventory that went out in October, but it also lessened the rental market. That's why rental properties went up. Is that true, you think?
Yeah, that is my experience in the field. And having said that, many of the tenants are getting pre-qualified with lenders to buy their own properties. It's really amazing. A lot of the tenants don't realize that with the new interest rates, they actually qualify to buy their own home.
They do out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you're in the process of being displaced, please reach out to a lender and reach out to a realtor right away, because this may be the opportunity to get your own home.
And I think as we've gone through this, and since we've been doing this show, I wasn't a realtor before this. We all had different jobs, but man, I'm telling you, it is the way to create wealth for yourself is to own something. And owning property is the first and best way to do that. And we hear this time and time again, Alice, about amount of net worth of a homeowner versus a renter, things like that. And so that's why home ownership, we advocate so much for it, because it's the easiest and simplest way for a person to create wealth for you and your family, no question. And take a look at that to qualify to buy those and study the market, and you can do it. I never give up on things and never give up with people. And it's amazing when you stick with it what you can find. And why not do it? Because rates today, FHA 30-year fixed are 3.25% with 3.5% down.
With an excellent score.
With a 740 score. I'm sorry, with a 740 score. You're right up there. Yeah, that's pretty darn good. So again, there are opportunities out there for people to do this. And you work with people all the time that way.
Yeah, and it's really heartwarming to be in the middle of a situation where somebody is so upset that their building is being sold or their property is being sold and they're the tenant, and to sit them down and encourage them and actually get them to a lender, and then to find out that they do qualify for something. And before their notice time, you give a 90-day notice now. Before their 90 days is up, they've already moved out into their own home, and they're not at risk anymore of a landlord's life decisions. They are their own life decision maker.
Well, there's a lot out there in the market, and again, it's being smart and working at it. We want you to be a smart real estate consumer, because it's the biggest amount of money you're going to spend in your life, right?
Yeah, and that's where a lot of our new supply is coming from, are people that don't want to be landlords anymore.
We've got a break coming up here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the silver tsunami that's coming our way. All right? You know what the silver tsunami is?
Yes, because it was on the financial news this week, and it's super exciting and scary at the same time.
Oh, yeah, the silver tsunami. We got that coming up in the Real Estate Show. We continue here in just a little bit here on KCMX and on YouTube, realestateshoworegon.com. So, got a break. Coming back up, the Real Estate Show continues. Pete and Alice, we're coming right back after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880 and YouTube at realestateshoworegon.com. Pete Belcastro, Alice Lema here in the house this weekend. Thank you for joining us as we winter is set through Southern Oregon. A lot of thank goodness, Alice, there's snow in the mountains. I'm telling you, that becomes our mantra. Is we got to have snow in the mountains, because when we have water, you've heard me say this all the time, when we have water in the summer and everything, everybody's happy. When we don't have water and people fight over water, then it's sad. So
yeah, we need our water.
Please snow more and those kind of things, and be careful, of course, as you drive as well. Anyway, we've been talking, kind of getting you updated on the market of what's kind of conditions going on around. There's a lot happening, as we've talked about, especially in the lower price market. Opportunities are there as well. And so is winter a good time to buy or to sell? And that's kind of the question everybody asks every year at this time, right? Should I buy? It's the holidays.
Yeah, you can really get some good deals. A lot of investors only do their shopping in the house shopping, building shopping.
In the winter?
In the fall and winter. And then I think if you're buying, it's hard physically to move when we have icy roads and things like that, and it's uncomfortable because you're packing in the cold. But boy, you can really get some great deals during that time.
Yeah, I think buyers who are out there, my experience is buyers who are looking now are pretty serious buyers, because it's winter. You just don't come out in the middle of winter unless you're kind of pretty
and they're writing
more
offers.
serious.
Yeah, when they
and
find
they are
property.
writing offers. Yeah. And again, for there's just less competition right now in some category. So that's kind of the key to keep in mind as we go through this. Well, what do you want to do for your house to get ready for your house for winter in the outside? Do you have rentals too, don't you?
And yes, and
properties as well.
And it's not only those kind of properties, but just the home that you live in. Because the storm we had before Thanksgiving, a lot of people's had either damage because they weren't ready. Yeah. They didn't do their maintenance.
Okay. All right. A few basic steps here to help you get your ready, family safe for winter. Okay. Do you do these things? I'm going to ask you these things. Roof and gutters.
Yes.
All right. Check out for loose shingles and flashing. Clean out the gutters and downspouts. You do that?
Yes. And I check them with my drone.
You do? Yes.
Yes.
That's a smart
then
way
I don't
to do
have
that.
to go on the roof.
I'm telling you, gutters and downspouts can cost you a lot of trouble. I've had clients do this. Because if they're full of water and they can't drain, the water drains back into underneath the roof line there and stuff. So it gets in there and it will rot away.
Well, and it can also compromise your foundation if it's dripping down where it's not supposed to.
All right. Pipes. If the temperature drops below 20 degrees, let water trickle from all faucets. Do you do that?
Well, I kind of have water going all the time. But if you're going to be gone, like if you were gone and you're just now coming back from your Thanksgiving break, then it would have been nice to put the drippy water on.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair. We'll be careful there. You also want to make sure that you have, of course, your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors are working in your house, especially this time of the year.
And that should be all the time.
All the time. Emergency kit. I was thinking as the wind was blowing by about 100 miles an hour earlier this week, do I have an emergency kit in my house? Because I'm sure the power is going to go off at any time here.
Well, and it did.
In a lot of places, didn't it?
It did. So, we're scrambling around looking for candles, and we had candles, but nothing to light it with.
See? You never
and then
know
the flashlight batteries were dead.
Yeah. You need to see that wasn't see we don't think about
and we
these
didn't have
here.
Water we didn't have water stored
and we don't think about that here. If we lived other places, believe me, we probably would more so. The thermostat, put your if your house is make sure your house is at least at 60, especially if they're vacant. If you have a vacant house you're selling or something, or a rental, boy, don't turn the thermostat off. Keep it at 60.
Well, if you're selling a vacant house, have a property manager hired so that they can take care of it for you.
This is where a smart house would come in very handy.
A smart house?
Because I could just do it on my phone and turn the heat up or down or whatever.
So how does that work if the electricity's off?
That doesn't. Oh, never thought of that one. It's a good one there. Your furnace. This is a good time also to have your furnace filters changed in the winter because they're going to be used more as well. Hoses and faucets, disconnect them and certainly cover up. I used to cover up my outside faucets with a towel, so they don't freeze, things like that. So make sure you do that. Tree branches, clear them away. Boy, there's a lot of branches down this week.
Your gutters will be less full if you clear your tree branches.
Yeah. So all those things, boy, because protect your house in the winter as best you can because it gets beat up a lot.
Yeah, it really does.
It does. Yeah, it really does. Anyway, we talked about before this break here about the coming silver tsunami and what that's going to affect real estate and what it's going to do to real estate. And the reason we say that, currently 34%. Okay, 34% of owner-occupied homes in the United States are owned by residents 60 years of age or older.
Which is not very old.
No, it's not. No, okay. Thank you for saying that. And 55.2% are owned by residents aged 50 or older. All right, so over half of every home in this country are owned by
in the United
basically
States.
A senior. Okay, you're eligible for AARP kind of thing. The next 15 years. They estimate that 20 million of those homes are going to be put on the market between now and mid-2030s. And that is what they call the silver tsunami coming. Where are these homes, where they're located at, where they are, what condition are they in. And this kind of, I'll just show you this quickly here. This is what we're talking about here. Here we are in 2020, and this is the number of owner-occupied homes who seniors occupy. And you can see how the line goes up all the way to 2040. That's an enormous amount of homes that are going to be on the market.
Well, it creates an interesting opportunity because a lot of those folks upsized along the way, and now they have these big, beautiful homes, some of them on acreage, and there's not as much market in the buyer pool for that. And some of it is financial and some of it is philosophical. The generation coming behind the silvers, if you will, are not as interested in big footprints.
Do you think so?
It's been documented. It's a change in values with the millennials, even the older millennials. They're not as interested in having the big houses and the big acreage as the baby boomers and Gen Xers were.
So do you think that, because that's who's building them? I was up in Spokane a weekend ago, and one of my old college roommates has built this huge, beautiful home, Alice. I mean, it's like $2 million thing. It's gorgeous.
Wow.
And we talked about that. I was asking him about how you're doing that, who are the people building around you, and they're all in his age, in that age group.
Well, that's
are still building a
who's
lot of these big mansions, and they have the money to do it.
Yeah, that's who has the money to do it.
They had the money to do it, and that was the difference. But I'm wondering if we talk about the silver tsunami coming, that if you're correct that many of those are in the upper price ranges, that they've moved up, and that many come on the market, not that many are interested, that's going to be a real glut on that market.
Well, and
right?
our luxury market is already oversaturated by 2-year plus inventory. So again, I say, if you pay attention to the market conditions of the property you own and you price it right, you should not take 2 years to sell. And I think you should pay attention to the coming inventory. It's just going to get more and more and more. So if you have a house like that and you're thinking of moving even in the next 8 years, maybe you should do it now. Get in front of it.
Okay, that's one way of doing it. Correct. Let me ask you another one here, though. Wouldn't many people maybe be smarter? Oh, I don't know about this one. To say, look, I haven't upgraded my home since I moved here. In 19 whenever it was. Should I kind of take time over the next few years to get it upgraded before I put it on the market to have more of a ability to have more with more competition coming?
I think that's going to depend on the particular house and neighborhood that you're in. I think that's going to be very individual.
And your health and the person's health, things like that.
Yeah,
too.
I would. Actually, I would go more with that. I would say if you're going to put that kind of money into upgrades, do it so that you can die in that house.
Okay.
And I don't mean to sound crass,
No.
but that's where we're all going to end. So take that money, make a certain number of rooms wheelchair friendly, provide a space for a caretaker, and maybe make that your end of life goal instead of
All
selling.
right. What gets me on this, if you look at this chart, is where are all these people going to go?
They're going to be
what
competing.
housing are they going to? They're either going to die here, or we're going to sell our place, and where are we going to go?
They're going to be competing with the mid-range and lower priced because they want something smaller.
Yeah, so that's really.
Or they're going to go into 55 and older apartment assisted living.
Could be some of that. I'm telling you that I've seen a lot of seniors who are are all in, as we get into that situation. Boy, some of the senior living places, the independent living places, that's expensive. So maybe there's options that people have to look at. Also, staying in your home longer and maybe doing that, especially for the boomers right now.
And you know what's so interesting with the digital age? Even the seniors are digitized. We are downsizing some of our elders from Southern Oregon to other parts of the country. Okay. They're going to assisted living and retirement living in other parts of the country because they found it online, and their particular Social Security monthly check meets those requirements in another state.
Okay,
isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, that's one of the strategies.
That's a good strategy for some people to use generally. So if you want to go pay, if you're a couple and you go do that, and you're going to go spend $4,000 a month in an independent living home. That's a lot of money in a year. You could fix your home up and stay there, forever, maybe, kind of thing. Is what you're talking about. That's an option if you have the money to do it.
And if your health is such that you're safe in that environment.
And that's the key, is the health.
We don't always know.
And, of course, is your home single level, or does it have stairs? And that probably, as this silver tsunami comes, let me tell you, if you have a single level without stairs in the future, is just where people are going to go. That's going to be a big thing because the seniors are not going to go where there's stairs.
Well, and if you've got extra money and you're thinking about rehabbing, then consider an elevator.
Yeah.
Or one of those acorn chairs. They're not very expensive.
Elevators are really in now.
Residential elevators are the new thing. Yeah, and you don't actually have to completely dissect your house. No. They have one in particular that's super cool. That's a tube. It looks like a vertical, like the thing at the drive-up bank. The tube that goes up and down. Yeah. So, and it's wide enough for a wheelchair and an average-size human. Okay. And you just install it next to the stairs.
Right.
So you don't
open
have
areas.
to.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen them look like like a Star Trek, where they get into the thing and it goes up, kind of thing, right next to the wall. They're all different types out there.
You can do them outside too.
And the cost was, I'm going to say, $10,000 kind of thing and up. But opportunities do exist there again for you maybe to stay in your home longer, because it's really difficult to where to go and plan that out. And you really need to have some assistance in doing so.
Yeah, but if you're going to start looking at $10,000 and $30,000 improvements, you might just add on a lower level kind of junior master suite for yourself that has some kind of nearby space for a caretaker. Yeah, but these are all choices that we're going to have to make and talk about.
We can certainly make additional dwelling units easier now, can't we, around our valley?
Well,
which
here in Oregon,
make some of that up as well.
Yeah.
We'll see that there's lots of changes. Again, we talk about lots of opportunities are out there for you to make the right decisions and do the best thing for each of you individually, right? Because that's really what it's about, is do the smart thing for you.
Yeah, because those big houses are being purchased by multi-generational units now, and that takes three groups of people to agree.
Interesting, isn't it? So, it sure does. All right, got a break coming up here on the Real Estate Show. Brett Nance has been running our camera here for our YouTube show. We thank him for that. Hope he had a good Thanksgiving weekend as well, all that kind of stuff. We've got one more segment to go. We're coming right back after this. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880 and on YouTube at realestateshoworegon.com. Pete Belcastro and Alice Lema here in the house. Thank you for joining us here this weekend as we talk about the real estate market, getting you up to date as we go into Christmas. I mean, Christmas is next now. That's the next holiday, New Year's, and then 2020. Oh, I don't even want to venture what kind of what 2020 is going to be like overall.
It's going to be so exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. Anyway, wanted to give you some more information as we go along here. I got an interesting story to share with you. Average price, existing home sales. We're up in October, as we were telling you about that. The West Coast, by far, it has a median price the highest of any part in the country, $410,000. October, median price in the West Coast. Okay. $270 is the U.S. total price. $271 is the median price in the country. Okay, what is our median price in Jackson County?
It's right around $300,000.
$300,000.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you look at that, if the median is $410,000, we're at $300,000. It appears, okay, that Jackson, Josephine, Klamath counties, which are less median price than $300,000, that we're one of the more affordable West Coast housing destinations.
Mm-hmm, especially if you don't have to be working. I think that's why we're attractive to so many retirees.
Yeah, you think so, though?
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of surprised at that, because we think we have high prices here, right? I mean, in many ways.
We do, compared to our demographic,
yeah.
Working wage people.
But compared to the rest of the West Coast, and of course that includes California, so that kind of throws everything into a total tizzy there. But anyway, that's an interesting stat to share, that we're a more affordable place here on the West Coast compared to other communities that we drive through and go through all the time.
Well, it's our desirability. I think when you have higher prices, it speaks to the desirability of an area. Had
an interesting situation this week. One of the things that we love to share with you all is the experiences that we meet with clients all week long. And I had an interesting thing come back, Alice, I want to share with you, is that an appraisal come back on a property, okay? And the appraiser, it was an FHA loan, okay? So up front there's an FHA loan.
That's a government subsidized loan.
Right. And the appraiser came back and said the lifespan of the house, and I said it was only 20 years. And I've never seen that before. I don't know if you have ever seen that before.
Not in residential. That's a commercial thing.
Really?
Well, yeah, anyway, lifespan.
20 years. And so what that did is that it changed the loan. So the buyer now can only, the lender can only give now a 20-year loan instead of a 30-year loan. And that changed everything.
But that's super weird, super uncommon. What kind of a lender was that? Let's talk about.
It was an online lender.
Okay, so they're.
I don't know if does that matter, you think, on that?
I think it really does. I think that's their risk. I think they're trying to avoid certain risks because they're not here to actually.
But how would the appraiser? I mean, this is my.
It's an odd situation. I'll give that to you for sure.
How does the appraiser determine that it is 20 years? 20 years left?
Yeah. Did you get to look at the appraisal?
I looked at it, and so it doesn't say real. I mean, it's just
was he allocating lifespan to elements like windows and roof and?
Well, there was only paint needed to be changed. It was that, but there wasn't anything else. Anyway, it was an odd situation. Never seen that before. So what I'm concerned about are this. If that's a trend or something that appraisers on FHA loans or whatever are going to look at those, especially older homes that are not in the best of condition, is that what's going to be a new standard that's coming back there of how much life expectancy is left?
And those buyers, the FHA program is government supported, the USDA and the VA, they all have similar condition requirements. So if that does become a trend, that's going to hit our first-time home buyers and our downsizers and people that are in kind of distressed financial situations.
Okay.
So that would be very, very alarming.
Now,
because how do you do a 20-year loan? How do you qualify? Because your payment's going to be higher.
That's a situation that they face.
I mean, on the good side, you're going to pay it off sooner, but your payment's going to be higher. I don't know if they'll qualify.
So you either have to buy points down to get it down to where you can do it, or the price of the house has got to come down, or
so
something
that
along the
could
way
have
there.
a big effect on the entry level.
Yeah.
Prices. Interesting.
And on the other side, if you have an older home like that's built in the 40s like this one was, and it has not been upkept or has not been remodeled and things like that, that situation could very well face now when you go to sell it. I'm not saying it is or not, but we talked in our office, and even nobody has seen ever an appraiser do that, say the house only has a 20-year lifespan left to it. Interesting situation.
Can you challenge that?
I don't know.
Because
I don't know. It just happened to us like a day ago, the holiday here.
Yeah, your poor buyer. How is your buyer holding up?
Well,
you know what? We have a lot of complaints about the online lender services, and they're going to be more popular, but really nothing beats having somebody locally. You can go sit at their desk and find out.
But they still have to have the appraiser still comes from here, right? I mean, the appraiser still is the local person, right?
I don't know. Was the appraiser? Was it a local
Medford
appraiser?
Address. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A Medford address. Anyway, I've just never seen that before,
Yeah.
so it's going to probably mess up this loan. I don't know if it will or not. But my point is, be aware of that, especially on older properties that you're wanting to sell. That could come up again. We'll see if it does.
Well, that could have a long-term effect on a lot of things. The ripples of that situation, if that really takes hold, could be. People might not be able to sell their houses because they won't. A lot of people don't have the money to fix up their house before they sell it.
Now remember, and that was an FHA loan. I don't know if a conventional loan that may not be
because the rules are different for a conventional.
Because the rules are different. Would they have had to have made these repairs or whatever? I don't know. But anyway, it was just a very odd situation this week.
God, that is super weird. You win, I think, for the year. That is the weirdest. We've had some weird appraisal stuff this year.
We just had,
but I think you get the medal for that one, Pete.
You think everything's good, and you come back and
you
never know, and that's why I guess you got to go through the process to do it. But
and in an FHA situation, they're usually pretty predictable. They have a standard; it's written down. You can go online and see. You either meet the standards or you don't. We don't have like lifespan,
and the standards are subject to the person who's there doing the appraisal. So. That was an interesting thing that we faced
well, let
this
us
week.
know
So
what
we'll see. I'll let you know what
that.
happens.
Yeah,
maybe we'll know more. maybe next week. I don't know. But in the meantime, we're almost out of time here today. I hope you again have a safe rest of the holiday weekend, and of course, join us again next week. We've got a show on hemp coming up.
Yes, we have somebody from the Southern Oregon Hemp Co-op.
Okay, and we know what's happened around there. Home warranties, rental markets. We got lots of shows still to go. And heck, we're heading into 2020 in just about a month. And then they got the year-end stats to share, all that kind of stuff we'll have on in future shows to tell you kind of what the market has been here in 2019. It's going to be really interesting as we go forward where this goes. As long as interest rates stay in this range, Alice, it's going to be
But I don't see how
year.
they can. I don't know for how much longer. And that's why if you're thinking of buying something, either first time or you're going to get an investment property, I would run to your local lender. Local lender, please.
My only prediction for 2020 is I don't think those interest rates are going up. It's an election year, and I don't think they're going up at all because the housing market right now is a big driver of the economy. It's a lot going on.
I think they're going to stay below 5, but I'm predicting. Let's make our predictions.
I told you they're not.
I
going
think
up.
they're going to go between 4 and 5.
Okay, all right, we'll see. We'll see if you're right. We'll have a bet on that one. Anyway, look, we're out of time, so that'll do it for our show today. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate your your attention. You can also get a hold of us at any time. Allison and I love to talk with you about real estate. Of course, if you need an agent, we're also there to help you, show you anything we can do to help you be a smart real estate consumer, right? Because that's what we're all about here. And when we do that, boy, it's a great opportunity for you to create, again, wealth for your family and for yourself. So that'll do it. So have a great rest of your holiday weekend, and we will talk to you next week, and God bless you all.